Golf team, we're excited to have her on board. Let's bring you on in. Here we go. Very simple situation. Click in. It'll say you're connecting,
Hey, Gene.
and we're in.
Perfect.
Just like that. Yeah, we got to be creative during these times. We're all on basically lockdown mode, so it's good that we're able to have you on.
Yeah, I know. It's my pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your team, the program, what you guys are doing now, or what you're trying to do now.
Yeah, no. Team has been great. We finished the season, short season. Finished 18th in golf stat rankings. We were definitely on the end of moving forward and, better practices, better mindset. So it's kind of unfortunate we were cut short.
Yeah.
But, we're trying to stay positive during this time and, think of it as a way to get ready for next year in the fall since we're only losing one senior.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Tell me, how do you tell your players to prepare both physically and mentally during this time where they can't actually be out?
Yeah, great question. Thankfully, the NCAA is still letting us kind of be a part of that for now until, what we would say is the end of our normal season. So this is our last week. But, we're just trying to stay positive mentally. But a lot of them are actually training for 5Ks and half marathons. So that's a little easier way to, stay active, stay fit while social distancing. And then a lot of them have set up, little hitting areas, in their backyard for the golf aspect of it, which has definitely helped.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of people just aren't aware just how serious. I mean, the best are obviously of just the endurance of golf, where you're maintaining the focus the whole time. I mean, physically and mentally, you got to be ready to go for a very long period of time, which makes it very different than all other sports.
Yeah, you're on deck for 6 hours sometimes when you include the warm up, the whole round itself, and then cool down. So it's definitely a long time to stay mentally, in it, stay positive. Definitely with the ups and downs of golf as well as any other sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you tell them a lot about having like a pre-shot routine where they have the same approach every time, the same kind of, the pace, their tempo is always the same, keeping it consistent from practice to a tournament?
Yeah, no, that's, not even just my team. Everyone I work with, pre-shot routines and then even post-shot routines are super important in golf. The pre-shot routine just to get us going and, have a good mindset and good physical, we're warming up neural pathways.
Yeah,
So you're making sure we're ready to go. And then the post-shot is to stay in that positive mindset, even if the shot didn't go as well. We sit there, we look at it, we reevaluate and see what we need to do next time. And within 10 seconds, we're done and over with and we're on to the next shot.
that's important. We talk about that constantly, being able to have a reset button, being able to just hit that reset button, whether it was, and it's not just even if it was a bad shot, it could have been a very good shot. Who cares? Like, it's done. Now we got to move on.
Exactly. You can't let each shot beforehand affect the next shot. It's always about the next shot in golf and moving forward.
How do you work that with them in practice, keeping them in the present moment?
Yeah. So a lot of what we do is, I'll do weird things where it's worst shot. So they have to make up for, they'll hit two balls and they pick the worst one and they have to go and play from that worst shot. So they have to stay positive in order to get a good score. And we'll do, competitions against each other so that, it's not just, oh, I hit a bad shot, we'll just kind of dink it around. They're always motivated to do better because they're playing against their teammates.
Absolutely. We always say always striking the ball with a purpose. At any point in time, you never just strike the ball to strike it. You just got
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. So for them, in that drill specifically, if they hit two good shots, it's even better. So staying, motivated, knowing, all right, my first one was really good. My second one has to be just as good or even better so that first one is my worst shot. So it's a good way to stay mentally, moving forward and always think about the shot at hand.
Absolutely. And like you said, if they hit a couple good shots in a row, a lot of times the athlete's thinking, well, when am I going to blow up? Like, when's it all going to come crashing down? What's the mindset there?
Yeah, so that's something, our team specifically has kind of been working on. This spring right before season started, we sat down and we had a whole, mindset and, positive mental thinking kind of day of practice. So we didn't touch a golf club. And all we did is we talked about, the pre-shot routine, post-shot routines. And then a step further is, when they start feeling themselves kind of get toward that negative mindset or they're kind of anticipating that bad, downward spiral, what can I do as a coach, or what can we do as teammates to make sure, that we don't get there. And so what was interesting is they all noticed, hey, so-and-so, when they're starting to spiral downwards, they look down at the ground. So as a team, we know, hey, if they're starting to look down at the ground, we go over and, talk to them real quick, pump them up. So it's nice to see that the team is kind of, in tune with each other in that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the key philosophies that you try to get across to the athletes? Any team philosophies? We hit on a few of them already, kind of basically, but what else?
The biggest one, and, it's my job, and they're here because they want to play. But the biggest thing I tell them is it is just a game. At the end of the day, no matter what they shoot, I'm still going to let them sleep in the hotel. I'm still going to go get them dinner. It happens. We all have bad days, and it's just something we have to accept. So, we'll just take it, and that's why we have 5 people on the golf course. It allows one of us to have a bad day, and your teammates are there to pick you up.
That's right. It's so simple to say, and even we say it. It's like, okay, well, I know, the sun's going to rise again. There's going to be another tournament after. Like, and my family's still going to love me. My coaches are still going to coach me. My friends are still going to be my friends. But we almost have that feeling that, hey, it's so important, and it's because we work so hard. So we want to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, it's a fear of failure.
Absolutely. What would you say is some of the biggest barriers, not really barriers, but the biggest jump from high school to college? What would you say for a high school athlete, high school golfer, to get them prepared for college golf?
Yeah, I guess so. The biggest difference is definitely the length, and you see that a little more on the women's side than the men's side. But the length, they'll go from 5,100 yards, and now we expect them to play 5,800 yards and more, with very little practice. And so the biggest thing is what I tell, especially my recruits, is on those off rounds when you're out playing with your family or your friends, challenge yourself, play a different set of tees. Even play a mix of tees, whether it's, we play a couple reds, a couple whites, a couple blues. So you work on a couple different things. Then I think the biggest difference that I found is, in high school, your coach can't be on the golf course with you. And so you're kind of out there by yourself learning how to do things. So I think it's a little more comforting knowing that, once you make that next step, your coach and your teammates are there for every single hole. I bounce around as a coach. So I'm not there, every shot, but, I'm there every couple of holes to make sure you're okay and, make sure we're on the right route.
Do you feel like some athletes that helps? I mean, of course, it's true. Everyone's a little bit different, right? But some of them that might be a big advantage. Some of them might be a big disadvantage in terms of what they're telling themselves.
Yeah, and so that's, me getting to know my players. There's definitely some players, if they're playing well, it's just, coach, hey, make sure I have enough water, make sure I have a snack every couple of holes. But for the most part, just let me go. And then there's others who, when they're playing well or they're playing poorly, they want me there by their side, as much as possible. So again, that's just kind of us communicating as a team and, trying to realize where I'm best utilized as a resource.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the best ways for a coach to get to know their athlete? I mean, do you have them fill out any surveys? Is it just a lot of time you're spending together? Is it throwing them some strategies that worked for you and seeing what takes for them?
I think it's a mix of both. I think it definitely helped that I played Division III golf, and so I was in the same situations not too long ago as them. But it's getting to know them. We'll go out, get coffee. We'll go. Our team really likes ice cream, so we'll go get ice cream. It helps that there's only 9 of us on the team. 10 including myself. So it's really easy to get into a room or go to a restaurant and just kind of hang out and just talk. But like I said, beginning of spring, we sat down, we filled out a bunch of forms. And it was all about, their mental preparedness, what they like and dislike on the golf course. One of the things was, how do you want to spend your morning? If we have like an afternoon round, what do you want to do in the morning? Do you want to sleep in? How late do you want to sleep in? Do you want to, get up early, do some work for school? And so then we've learned, how to pair them when we're doing roomings as well.
That's great. That's really big. I was going to ask you that about, have you seen anything that was surprising or any common patterns after they filled out those forms?
A lot of them actually, as much as they say they're not a morning team, a lot of them would actually prefer to get up and do some work in the morning. For them, it's a way to relieve some stress. And so once they kind of get an assignment or 2 done, they don't really worry about it on the golf course anymore. And now it's just solely golf. We say it's like you said, it's a lot easier to say than do. But when we're on the golf course, we only want to think about golf and stuff. But there's so many other things in our lives that we stress about. So for them to get a couple assignments out of the way is just one less thing they're worried about on the golf course.
That's great. And then being able to pair them up with people who are a similar personality or similar temperament or preferences, I think that's big too.
Exactly. It just helps with our sleeping. And one of the big questions is, how many hours do you want to sleep, before a round? And it averaged from 5 to 9.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference when you look at it like that. So, we tried to work it so that, the 5 to 7 were in one room and then 7 to 9 were in a different room, so that they can kind of judge their, bedtimes and stuff like that.
Do you see a lot of them? No, we see this in all sports, but difficulty sleeping the night before the tournament, where they would like to get better sleep, but they're stressing too much. The wheels are spinning. They can't shut it down mentally.
No, definitely. And I was definitely like that as a player. I would definitely not sleep. I was always worried about missing my alarm, even if it was a 1 o'clock shotgun. But yeah, so we do deal with that. Sorry. And what we do is we have a team meeting the night before, and we try to plan everything so that when they just get up in the morning, all they have to do is go eat breakfast, warm up, and then go. So that they already have a plan. And again, it's less things that they have to think about, the night before. So we try to relieve all kind of outside stressors. Sometimes we'll write everything that we're worried about on a piece of paper, and we'll crumble it up and throw it in the garbage can. Just as kind of a metaphor of, there's nothing else to worry about right now. It's just us. We're just going out to play, and we're going to make the best of it.
We've had teams do that before. I love that exercise. It's more tangible rather than being so abstract, writing down any doubts, fears, insecurities, and throwing it out. If you're in the outdoors, you can even light it on fire in a safe
Exactly.
place. But like you said, it's just that tangible expression of, I control you, you don't control me, in terms of our fears and insecurities.
Yeah, and that's another thing we've talked about is, the type of personalities that tend to come to WNL are very, I want to be in control. And so learning what we can and can't control on the golf course has definitely been a huge advantage for us. We just made a big list of them. What can I control? The way I react. My choices on the golf course. The things I can't control. The lie, the wind, the weather, the golf course conditions. And, we get upset because, maybe we land in a divot. But again, we can't control it, especially if it's in a fairway. You hit a good shot. So we've learned to accept that, we hit a good shot sometimes and they just end up in bad places. So that has been a huge difference for us.
Yeah, that's big. Do you see that they much better job of dealing with that, going the leap from high school to college? How does someone develop that, where maybe at first they're beating themselves up over a bad shot versus letting it go?
I think it actually gets a little worse from the jump from high school to college, just because you have so much going on. It is that next step in, your career. You have a little more expectations for yourself. Some of you are trying to make the lineup. So you are a little harder on yourself. So I think that's part of our job as coaches to, recognize that in each student athlete and try to figure out, what's the best way to help them. Some of my team, it's, we would have to go sing a song. I've learned so many different songs just because I knew the artists that they liked, and that would calm them down. Some of them is just talking to them, or, talking about what we're going to go do for dinner. Just simple things just to get their mind off, that shot that just happened.
That makes a lot of sense. I say to athletes, the music you listen to is so important. I mean, I could tell you as a former wrestler, it was listening to, I listened to the wrong music in high school. Rocky and Eminem and Tupac. I used to think you have to get real mad, and I would underperform relative to practice. And then in college, I started listening to disco or Alvin and the Chipmunks or Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, songs that made me not take myself so serious. Smile, laugh, loosen up. And then lo and behold, I started performing better. So
I was the same way. High school and even the early part of college, it was, a lot of rap, rock, very aggressive music. And then so what I started to do is, on the bus ride, I'd still listen to that. But as soon as I got to the golf course, it was more John Mayer, Dave Matthews, stuff that would calm me down and kind of slow down my heart rate and kind of even it out before I got on the golf course.
Yeah, because it seems like for us with very competitive mindsets, we're supposed to be getting fired up. And that's not necessarily we're already ready for it. We want to win. We want to succeed. You don't have to convince us of that. we got to sometimes pull in the opposite direction of it's no big deal. It's just something we love to do. It's another day in the office. It's me being me, doing what I normally do. I like it. I enjoy it.
Exactly. Exactly. We almost pump ourselves up too much, and the music doesn't help. So we were almost self-sabotaging in a way for a while.
Yes. Yes. The other thing I really like what you said was about where speaking to them about something other than golf. We see that a lot in sports, all different sports, that sometimes that's the last thing they want to speak about the day of a competition. Maybe one or two pointers here and there just to kind of cue them in the right direction. But after that, it's just talk about what we're doing after. What are we doing next week? Yeah, that's big.
And, like I said, we're out there for 6 hours or so. So what we do is, in the warm-up, if they need something, I'll tell them a couple key swing thoughts that they need to think about throughout the day. But the biggest thing I tell them is, they're at that tournament because they earn the right to be there. They beat out their teammates. They've showed me that, they're the right person to be there. So instead, I'm just a cheerleader. If something haywire, happens and we need to do a swing change, then I'm out there. But for the most part, I'm just a cheerleader, at that point. So I try to, like you said, take their mind off some things.
Awesome. Awesome. Tell us more about your school and what kind of kids you're looking to recruit.
Yeah, great question. So we're in Lexington, Virginia, southwest part of Virginia. Very small school, about 1,800 kids, including the law school, oldest law school in the country, by the way.
Nice.
And so we're looking for kids. Biggest thing, one thing we ask our student athletes is, you have to make one promise to us, and it's you want to be better by the end of your 4 years in college. Right. So if you want to do that, that's the first biggest thing. But when we're talking about, academics, 3.5 or higher, we're a very high academic school. This year we did go test optional, so it's a little different. But normally, ACT of 29, SAT of, 1360 or higher. But, very smart kids. They make me feel dumb sometimes because they'll be in class, hey, coach, I don't get this. So I'm like, you got to go find a tutor. But, they're all great kids in the end.
Absolutely. And how do you tell them how to transfer those lessons that they learn in golf into into the classroom, into their social life, just in general?
I think, playing golf definitely helps just because we're out there for so long that they have to learn to focus and, kind of tune it in and out when it's best. So I think that definitely helps a ton. But I think, the way we approach it is, it's just a round of golf. Whatever happens, happens. They've learned that, with their test scores, they can have a bad test score and their grades are still going to be okay. It's not, what defines them. And that's kind of the one thing we talk about a lot at WNL is, your grades and everything don't define who you are. It's your characteristics, how you treat people, the type of person you are more than anything.
Yeah, we say it all the time, using golf as a vehicle to build virtue, right? Mindset's mindset. Mental toughness is mental toughness. Virtue is virtue, whether it's in the tournament, in school, job interview, or life. Do you believe in yourself or not? Are you a person of integrity or not? So
exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing I found is, most of the time they're good in all aspects except for the confidence. Really big in self-doubt. And so that's kind of the one thing we have focused on lately is, I believe in you. I chose you to be here for a reason. I recruited you. When are you going to start believing in yourself? And so that's kind of been our big focus lately.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we see with a lot of the higher academic institutions, a lot of times the kids tend to be more overthinkers. They're very cerebral. They're too analytical, where you want, and when you go out there to compete, a lot of people think with mindset training, we're trying to get the athletes to think more. It's the opposite. We want you thinking less. Exactly. If I had to choose between you being a positive thinker, a negative thinker, or lights are on, but nobody's home, no thinker, I want you to be no mind rather than even positive mind.
Exactly. If you talk to a lot of, the pros or, even, college teams when they played well, half the time they don't know what they shoot. I had a girl walk off the golf course. She shot 75, one of the best, rounds I've seen her play. She goes, Coach, did I shoot 85? I said, no, not even close. She goes, oh, I had no idea. So you're exactly right. Being able to just step aside and kind of just almost watch yourself play from the outside.
Yeah, that's big. And that goes, what you're saying there goes right along with what we call the predator mindset, where all that really means is a metaphor for focusing on what you can control. And exactly. Prey mindset, so we say eyes on the front, like to hunt, eyes on the side like to hide. And those eyes on the side would be focusing too much on our score. We're comparing ourselves to other people. But if your athlete is just focusing on striking the ball well, making good decisions, controlling the controllables, they don't have to be like all fired up or intense. They can be very loose and relaxed. And that's absolutely what we call the predator mindset. So you don't want to be sucked into your scores.
Yeah, and so what we've done is we've done a couple different things. They have a stats card that they fill out, and so we'll do games based on stats more than, scores. So it'd be like, how many greens can you hit in a round? How many fairways? Because we know if we do that and we focus on that instead, it's going to lead to a better score. And so they tend to enjoy those games a little better. And each individual gets their own game based on, their normal stats.
I like that. I think that's great. Just chunking it down into more manageable. And if we focus on this, that's going to take care of itself. It's crazy because literally any sport you deal with, it's the same thing, but just the parameters are slightly switched. Like what you're saying there, it's like focusing on just hitting the green, right? Okay. Now in wrestling, it might just be, don't think about winning the match, but on bottom, just make a first move, because a lot of athletes don't make a first move. Yeah. It's the same thing. We're chunking down those goals to something that's much more attainable, that if I do this, I'm much more likely to get the end result that I want.
Exactly. And for us, we call it, step goals are the smaller ones, and then our overarching goal is kind of the big one everyone has.
Excellent. Now, it's great stuff. Is that the basketball coach also just jumped on?
Yeah, definitely. It's either Chris or Matt. So
let's go, guys. Shout out to Washington and Lee. Awesome. Now, Kelsie, it's great stuff. I appreciate it. Anything else that you would say for athletes? What could they be doing now to bring their game to the next level in terms of skills and drills, strength or conditioning, mindset? What should they be focusing on?
Yeah, I think, right now is a little different time, but I think you can actually focus on all of those. Like I said, at WNL, our strength and conditioning coach has been great. They're sending out, workouts, challenges to all athletes. But you don't need somebody to force you to do that. You can go out for a run. There's a lot of body weight stuff that you can do, and you just Google that. And then for the mindset, for me personally, I've made goals of trying to read a chapter a day in a book, awesome. Kind of get back to stuff like that. And that's been huge for me and my team. Like right now, I'm reading Every Shot Counts by Mark Brody to better understand the stat side of everything, and how we can use the stats to better our practices.
Excellent. Great stuff. Well, keep doing what you're doing. Really great things. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We'll get this out to people. Thanks again, Kelsie. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Take care. You too.
Bye.